Now, from an initiative to change the law, I want to move to an initiative for women in business. I'm joined on the line by David Thomas, the Chief Executive of Corporate Banking Division with Ulster Bank. David, thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure, Alan. Thanks.
Now, let me ask you about this initiative. It's called Business Women Can, but it arose out of an initiative called SmallBusinessCan. So maybe start by telling me something about SmallBusinessCan. What is that about?
Yeah, a few years ago we took the rather brave step of setting up what is essentially a business social media. So it's kind of Facebook for business. And over that time, it's taken off. I mean, Ulster Bank are a shareholder. We're not, it's not our website.
Okay.
But we're a partner in that website, and it's really taken off. We've got loads of users. You go on there at any time, there'll be 500 or 600 businesses talking to each other, getting advice from each other. It's actually a really interesting site if you ever get the chance to browse.
And what led you to form a Business Women Can then?
Well, I mean, Ireland is probably more entrepreneurial than most other developed countries, but it's absolutely dominated by male entrepreneurs, to a ratio of something like 2 to 1. And then if you kind of look at the startup businesses, then it's sort of the ratio is even worse. So there's for every one business that's set up by a woman, there are 3 set up by men. And if you look at comparable countries, UK and the States, then we are significantly underrepresented in Ireland by women. It's also true that women are statistically less confident about starting a business and being successful. But then on the flip side of that, women entrepreneurs tend to be better qualified, they plan more, they're a little bit more risk averse, and we wanted to help encourage that part of the market that could be an even bigger contributor to Ireland's economy and ultimately for jobs as well.
And just as an item of interest, you said that women were less confident, but they're better qualified and more risk averse. You said 1 woman setting up equals 3 men setting up. What's the success ratio? Any idea?
So the success ratio is usually better for women to start setting up businesses because they genuinely tend to plan more. They don't have that overdose of male testosterone, which we all have. And so actually they tend to set them up carefully and have some longevity in their businesses.
And how does your site try to actually boost women's confidence in running a business?
Well, it's much more than a website. It's actually a network. So what we've done is we've connected a network of people within Ulster Bank to a network of ambassadors externally, and we've linked them all in through the website. So it's really to try and create a network across Ireland where women can get support and informal advice from people who are kind of like-minded and really understand their needs. The theme is absolutely support, and we kind of want to be the bank that helps that support for what is a real massive untapped potential.
And as an item of interest, I presume the Women Can site, Business Women Can site, is actually confined to women. Any thoughts on women actually being on a site on their own and networking together as opposed to networking through the main site? Well,
it's sort of a micro site within the main site. At this stage, we haven't decided where we're going to take that. There's no reason that, I mean, women obviously like to network with men as well. So there's an awful lot of really useful advice on that site, which would help. But no, I mean, I think it's not just about the virtual side. It's about creating that network face to face as well, which is a really important part of it.
And I suppose to look at the 2 sides of the networking then, you said you have Ulster Bank people who are networking into these female entrepreneurs on the other side. What kind of people from Ulster Bank have you got networking in from your end?
So it would typically be the more senior women out in the communities. So many of them are relationship managers, senior branch managers, but often there will be people that are connected into various women's groups across the country as well, and they would naturally be doing this anyway.
And this is within your own bank, then you have a sort of network that reaches out to women entrepreneurs already, that this is enhancing?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do. We've got 28 ambassadors in total as a start point. 16 of those are in Ulster Bank and 12 of those are external.
And And tell me about the ambassadors then, because I presumed innocently that they were all external, so I stand corrected. Most of them are Ulster Bank. But tell me what the ambassador actually does then on a sort of day-to-day or a month-to-month basis. How do they encourage interaction or networking?
Oh, so they are typically women who have already started their own businesses and are very successful in their own businesses. And it's a fantastic thing for us that they actually want to help Ulster Bank be successful. And so they are, networking at women's networking events, networking as you and I would do normally, but very, very much trying to get the message out that we're ready to help and encourage women entrepreneurs particularly. It's actually very humbling that people, customers are prepared to do that for us.
I think it's marvellous, but I think it's probably women naturally being interested in helping other women, to be honest, much more than even that sort of customer base. I think it's a natural thing that you find in women's networks. You probably find it in all business networks, but it's a natural thing that people would want to do, I think, to help others. From your point of view, from an Ulster Bank point of view, what's the bang for the buck for the bank? Well,
because we actually think that these will be fantastic customers for us for the future. So, we want to encourage business. We see that's part of our remit from a community perspective anyway. But clearly people who open accounts with us, we'll help them with to help their business grow. We'll help their business do their first export. We'll basically be there when it matters. And that's obviously good for us as well.
And from an entrepreneur's point of view, if you're a female entrepreneur and you want to become part of this Business Women Can, do you need to be an Ulster Bank customer?
No, absolutely not. So we and SmallBusinessCan, is very much low key from an Ulster Bank perspective. So I would hope and encourage people who are customers of any bank to get involved. They don't have to move their accounts to us at all. It's just important that we help encourage this activity because it's actually quite a big untapped reservoir of talent for Ireland.
And I suppose just the final and absolutely impossible question to answer. Any idea how many jobs you're likely to create or how many entrepreneurial businesses you're likely to start as a result of this initiative?
I've good ambitions. If you take any startup company, if it survives a year, typically it can be employing 5 to 10 people. There are about, we currently start up across the whole island about 6,000 startups a year, which obviously then, if you multiply that up to the number that are successful, you get a significant number of jobs. So if we could do even 1,000 startups, you could easily see that going into something like 10,000 jobs, which is hugely important and great for the economy.
It would be a remarkable contribution to the economy. David Thomas, Chief Executive of Corporate Banking Division with Ulster Bank. Thank you for sharing that this afternoon.
Thanks very much, Ellen.
So there you have it. If you're an entrepreneur who's interested in becoming involved in that network, you can join SmallBusinessCan.com. And if you're particularly a woman who's an entrepreneur and in business and you're interested in hooking up with the Ulster Bank network, the connection is BusinessWomenCan.com. And finally, I can't really let you go without reminding you, Facebook.com/Brendan's Law for anybody who's interested in getting involved, and particularly if you're that legal brain that they need so much on that campaign. That's all I have for you for this week. That's the problem with this show. We run out of time far too fast. Next week, I'll be chatting with Dr. Lee Comito. Now, I don't know if you know him or not, but he's a senior lecturer with the School of Information and Library Studies at UCD. This man's job really is to research what we're all doing in the field of communications, and particularly the e-diaspora and ethnic communities. And what we're going to be chatting about, and I'm really looking forward to it, I must say, is how we all communicate nowadays and what impact social media has had and what influence that has on communities and much, much more. But that's for next week.